Am I the idiot for sending my cousin the bill for my kid's birthday cake because her kid ruined it? We recently threw my 5-year-old a birthday party. He hasn't had a real birthday party since he was 2 years old due to COVID, so this was the first one he'd actually remember. We wanted to make it special, so we invited all our closest friends, family members and their kids. One of my cousins, a single mom, has a very unruly 6-year-old. He is loud, disobedient, and a nightmare in public. When it came time to blow out the candles and cut the birthday cake, he came and stood directly next to my son. I anticipated what was going to happen next and asked my husband to stand behind this kid in case he tried to pull anything. After we sang, this kid kept trying to blow out the candles. My husband kept blocking him and pulling him back, and we could tell the kid was getting frustrated. Eventually my son blew out the candles and the kid absolutely lost it. He threw a tantrum and slammed his entire arm into the cake, knocking it into the table. It was so awkward, everyone gasped and got quiet. My son looked up at us and I could tell he was about to start crying. In an effort to not cause a bigger scene, my husband picked him up and whispered to him that we had another special cake just for him. We didn't, and he seemed to calm down. Meanwhile, his cousin was still standing there screaming and crying, his arm covered in cake. His mom was nowhere to be seen. I walked him over to the sink and washed him off and quietly told him that he shouldn't have done that to the cake, and that he should apologize to his cousin for what he did. He screamed no in my face and then ran away. My husband ended up running out to buy a sheet cake that we cut and served to everyone. I spoke to my cousin after the party about what happened since she wasn't in the room, and she brushed it off saying kids will be kids. I completely disagreed. I've been to plenty of birthday parties where the other kids let the birthday boy/girl have their moment. I suggested she pay for the ruined cake and she looked at me like I was crazy. I told her how important it was to us that this birthday be special to my son since it would be the first one he remembered, and now all he would remember was that his cousin ruined his special moment. She got extremely defensive and refused to pay for anything. She then accused me of acting like the perfect mom and began to list the ways in which I was in fact not perfect. It was a hurtful conversation and we haven't spoken since. I sent her the bill for the ruined cake and she has not paid us. I actually feel she should pay for both cakes since her kid is the reason we had to get a new one, but I didn't go that far. My husband thinks she'll never pay us, and that I should drop the issue at this point. He says that since she's a single mom it's probably hard on her and we should cut them both some slack. I understand that, but I feel like that's just letting her and her son off the hook, and this will lead to even bigger problems in the future if we don't hold them accountable. Am I the idiot here? OP, you are not the idiot. But you can't bill or punish your cousin into being a better mother, nor her child into being a sweeter kid. All you can do is prioritize your own family's comfort and feelings. If you don't trust her and her son not to ruin moments, let them know, and stop inviting them to events. They'll take it however they choose to. Not the idiot, but your husband is partially correct. The mother will never pay that bill. In the future, you just don't invite them. If the mother asks why, you tell her because that she seems incapable of controlling her kid. Not the idiot, but you'll never get your money, and I think you made your point. The kid is a jerk because the parent is a jerk. No longer invite them to any parties and enjoy your immediate family because they seem nice. Am I the idiot for telling my cousin and her husband they should consider stopping their IVF treatment? My, female 28, cousin Lauren, female 35, and her husband have been struggling with having kids and are suffering from health issues. They've begun IVF treatment, which is expensive where I live. So far they've had several rounds but no luck. They visited on my mom's birthday yesterday. We don't see each other much now, but mom tells me about how they're doing in general. We were conversing at dinner and the IVF got brought up. Lauren said she and her husband are about to undergo another round of IVF. Everyone at the table said a prayer and wished them luck, but I told Lauren that after spending this much money, and after having already gone through several rounds in addition to other factors contributing to their infertility issues, she should really consider stopping IVF, and taking a break, and also saving money. Lauren and her husband looked offended. Lauren then said that they aren't struggling with money so it's okay. I explained that they may not be struggling now, but will be in the future, seeing they'd spent thousands, and wasted money for no benefits, while they could have financially helped some struggling family with kids. Lauren got quiet. I stated that this was just my opinion after all. Lauren's husband looked at me grudgingly and said, "I think you should just mind your own business, and keep your opinion to yourself." From there the argument ensued. I told him he was being disrespectful, and he kept talking back. Shortly after, he and Lauren left. Mom started asking me why I caused a scene on her birthday. I said we were just talking, but Lauren and her husband blew this way out of proportion. Mom said that I had zero say in anyone's reproductive choice, and should have kept my mouth shut. My sister, who rarely agrees with me, sided with me, saying I was good. But Mom is insisting I call Lauren and apologize to her. My husband too sided with me, and told me to give it a few days and Lauren will call. I see Lauren as my sister and I respect her, but we have our moments. You are the idiot, their reproductive choices are none of your business. I told him he was being disrespectful and he kept talking back. Ironic that you'd call him disrespectful, and claim he's the one talking back. You are the idiot. Also, this is not wasting money. They are trying to have a baby, and your absolute dismissive and hurtful comments are terrible. Now, if they were loaning money everywhere to get these treatments, and only if they asked you multiple times and you kept on saying no, then you have the right to say something about this. If not, shut up. And also, I can say my opinion because it's my opinion, and I'm allowed to state my opinion, however de facto true that is also making you a huge idiot. You don't need to say your opinion because it's none of your ducking business. Here's the thing about being pro-choice, it doesn't just apply to a person's right towards abortion. It also applies to a person's right to have children. If it's not your body, it's not your business. Am I the idiot for walking out of my cousin's wedding? I, 45 female, was recently contacted out of the blue by my cousins, John's, 47 male, daughter, Emily, 23, who wanted to meet more of his family after he's been no contact with all of us since his wedding about 25 years ago. He was apparently furious with her when he found out, and forbade any further contact unless we all apologize for walking out of his wedding. John had been engaged to Rachel for about 2 years, and she was very lovely and sweet. All the family loved her, and really tried to make her feel like a part of the family. They'd come to holidays and birthdays for all the family, and we threw a party for her on her birthday. We didn't hear from them in the month or two leading up to the wedding, but we figured they were just busy with last-minute planning, and none of us were in the wedding party. On their wedding day, all of us, about 20 cousins, aunts and uncles, his parents were deceased, turn up at the venue to see signs for John and Kristen's wedding. We thought we were in the wrong place initially, until John came out and confirmed that it was the right wedding hall. John said that he'd called off the engagement with Rachel a month prior after reconnecting with an old flame, and they decided to use the date to get married instead. We were all confused and upset, and while John was trying to calm everyone down, I went and used the venue's phone to call Rachel. She said that 2 weeks before she had caught John cheating with Kristen, and ended things right then. She also said that John had refused to cancel what they could for the wedding and get back what money they could. Instead, he used them towards this new wedding with Kristen. Most of the family and I then walked out, saying that we were not going to stay for this bait-and-switch wedding, especially after he had treated Rachel so horribly, and him not even telling anyone that he was marrying someone else. He said that it shouldn't matter who he was marrying, and that his family, we had to stay and support him. We didn't, so he hasn't spoken to any of us for 25 years. Am I the idiot for walking out of the wedding and not apologizing even after 25 years? Not the idiot. Emily is 23 and doesn't need her dad's permission to get to know the family. John is a bad person who has no right to demand anything from anyone. Not the idiot. You and your family made a choice on his wedding day after he tried to fool you all. He didn't reach out and neither did you guys. The only reason this is being drug up now is because John's daughter reached out. His daughter is now an adult, and she can reach out if she likes, and you guys can build a relationship with her if you like. It sounds like John hasn't let it go, and I can't quite tell if you guys have either. Best of luck on this OP. Not the idiot. Good luck to John on forbidding a 23-year-old woman from doing anything. He's probably concerned you all will tell her why you walked out of the wedding, and doesn't want her to know what kind of man and woman her parents are. Both John and Kristen are huge idiots. I mean John for obvious reasons, but Kristen up and marries a man 2 weeks after his fiancée finds them cheating and dumps his worthless bum. Then she just steals the wedding with him? Gross. Her self-esteem must be nothing. Just be careful with Emily. It would be hard news to hear, but that doesn't mean she shouldn't hear it. It might help her see her parents for who they are, because she surely struggled with parents like this. Am I the idiot for uninviting my cousins from my wedding for feeding info to my mom? I, 28 male, am an only child. When I was 12, my parents divorced when my dad found out my mom cheated on him. This was devastating to my dad. My parents were best friends, and started dating when they were 17. I played sports and my dad was my coach, so I had a much closer relationship to him than my mom. I was supposed to spend 1 week at my mom's, then the next week at my dad's. But I would usually just lock myself in my room at my mom's. Usually my dad would drop me off and I would get on my bike and ride the couple miles back to his house. My mom would ask me things and I would literally pretend like she didn't exist. It got so bad that lawyers got involved thinking my dad was turning me against my mom. My dad encouraged me to spend time with my mom, but I couldn't. My mom tried putting us in therapy, but I would just sit there till the time was up, not saying a word to her. Eventually my mom broke down and let me just live with my dad. I haven't spoken a word to my mom in 15 years. She would show up to my games alone. Sometimes I would ask my dad to tell her to leave. Sometimes I didn't even notice she was there. She would try talking to me after and I would walk right past her. I cut her whole family off besides a few of my cousins that were around my age. She showed up to my high school graduation and I asked a couple teachers to remove her, and they did. She never dated anyone else to my knowledge and was still attempting to reconcile with my dad a few years before he passed. Calling it the biggest mistake of her life, and begging my dad to forgive her. When my dad passed a couple years ago, she tried to show up to the funeral and I met her outside to ask her to leave. My fiancée Rachel was with me when I did this and my mom cried upon learning we were engaged. Rachel introduced herself as my fiancée, saying she couldn't believe I hated her still this many years later. So last week I received a letter from my mom with a large check inside. In the letter she said she couldn't live knowing she wouldn't be invited to her only child's wedding. That her whole family is hurt that I cut them off. And that she had been keeping tabs on me all these years through my cousin's updates out of respect for me, but couldn't handle not being at the wedding. I ripped the check up and sent it back to the return address. She shouldn't have even known my address as I keep her blocked on all social media. I called up my cousins who admitted that since I was 14 they have been providing my mom with updates on me. Prom pics, college updates, engagement photos, and they sent her my address. I was so mad that I told them they wouldn't be invited to the wedding anymore because I don't want my mom getting access to it. Rachel is saying I'm going too far now, and uninviting my cousins along with freezing out my mom's whole family because of her actions is an idiot move. Am I the idiot? Edit, the cheating was with a teammate's dad. This was highly embarrassing for me and caused me to have to move towns. Caused me to lose friends. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you are the idiot. Acting out as a 12 years old is to be expected. Deciding not to ever forgive your mom is totally your right, though it was 16 years ago, and you, while affected, were not really the aggrieved party. The fact that you are still throwing tantrums like a 12-year-old, at the age of 28, makes you the idiot. Edit, I'd even go so far as to say your fiancé should consider this a pretty serious red flag. The fact that you can act with such hatred and spite over something that happened over 16 years ago, and only peripherally involved you, to me shows a pretty serious character flaw. At the very least, she should be concerned about what it would take for you to direct that anger at her, and what form that anger would take. OP's mom is the most important person in OP's life myth right now. Everyone has a life myth. It's the story they tell themselves about their life. What's shaped it, where it's going, who it's about. It's the mythologization of our own life story. OP's life myth has his mother as the villain. She ruined his life, every bad thing is traceable to her. His teenage depression, everyone has it? Mom's fault. His difficulty dating, all teenagers have it? Mom's fault. His bad grades, which we all get sometimes. Mom's fault. Everything that is normally sucky about a person's life, that they normally have to blame on something vague and nebulous, can now be blamed on a single, concrete person, who is transformed in his eyes into the villain of his entire mythic life story. He can't forgive her. She's the villain, he's literally lived longer with her as the villain than without. If he loses her, who does he have to blame, quite frankly? Nobody. He will never forgive her because her villainy is now built into the fabric of his life myth. Without her to play antagonist, he just cannot deal with the world. If I were being generous, I'd say not the idiot because I don't think that there were any intended idiot here. But truthfully, I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that blatantly disregarding OP's wants in favor of the mother is a bit of an idiot thing to do by his cousins, and an idiot move by his mother not to respect his choice, no matter how sorry she is. Ultimately, what would make OP the idiot is if he was the instigator. But he isn't. He is reactionary. I've given this a lot of thought, and I feel like a lot of the votes in favor of him being the idiot here are a bit misguided / empathizing with the wrong person. I will say, I do agree with the fact that he needs therapy, and that amount of cortisol, which is what will happen from this level of anger, isn't healthy. But all that said, I don't blame him for that. I get feeling sorry for the mother, who so obviously feels bad about what she's done. Really, I do. But I don't think his actions are indicative of a lack of empathy for his mother so much as unresolved hurt from the domino effect her actions had on him. In fact, I think it's pretty clear this is the result of trauma. Apathy is the opposite of empathy, really. But he so clearly still cares, or he wouldn't be so angry. People are defending the fact that it wasn't his business, and that she's allowed to have flaws. And yes, she is. But there is a consequence and outcome for every single thing we do, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. She made her bed, and found out it was broken in more than one place. It sucks, but this is the consequence for her actions. And for the record, to all the people who say it isn't his business, it absolutely is his business. He's obviously been traumatized by this series of events. Trauma explains the ability to hold on to such anger for such a long time. Children aren't stupid, it's pretty clear they can pick up on stuff from family members. The best intending parents will do everything in their power not to let it impact the kids, but sometimes it's just inevitable. Even if his father was hurt more, in theory, by his mother's actions, clearly there have been side effects that have occurred outside of that one instance. Bullying is no joke, and it's no surprise that he holds her responsible as the reason it happened. I mean, had she not cheated, then the circumstances might have been different. Also, just because his father took the brunt of the initial pain, doesn't mean he didn't also experience his own horrible pain. Since when is it a competition? No two people have the same threshold for the same types of pain. We're all different. Regarding the cousins and his mother. Even in the absence of specific instructions not to keep his mother updated on him with his sometimes public, sometimes private information. I feel like they are paying a price for their own actions too. You wouldn't have to tell me not to give updates to someone who hurt you, and you decided to go no contact with. It's blatant disregard for his very clearly implied boundaries, and it's betrayal. You're basically saying you feel worse for the aggressor than the victim, if you're willing to prioritize the aggressor's wants over the victim's. Even if it doesn't seem fair, that was not their call to make. I'm really not sure how people are justifying this. They got involved in the mother's favor, and now people are like surprised Pikachu face that there are consequences for that. Finally, I really don't think people are being fair here regarding how he's treating his mother. He has made his choice. She has time and time again not respected it. She needed to write him a letter that expresses how sorry she is, that if the OP is ever willing to reconcile she is willing and ready, and then let the ball be in his court. Then, she needed to leave him the F alone. Why is everyone glossing over this? Even if she has good intentions, she's still dismissing someone she hurt in favor of what feels best for her. She tried to bribe him with money.